Hey everybody, Mr. W here. Today's lesson is on division, and this topic is dividing greater numbers with two-digit divisors. By greater numbers, we're talking about a dividend of 45,308. We're just going to do one problem today, and two-digit divisors means that our divisor of 13 has place values of tens and ones, and not just a one place value. This lesson is really about strategies for solving long division. It's not so much about steps. Strategies are like estimating, reasoning, and multiplying. We're going to divide this type of problem like any other whole number, but don't forget to include your comma in your answer because that is important that you keep that lined up, and we'll talk more about that in just a second. Like always, our steps are to divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, and repeat. And because it's a lot of numbers, we'll be repeating those steps over and over again for each number that we bring down. Okay, we talked about strategies. Strategies like estimating, reasoning, and multiplying to help us figure out how to solve this type of problem. Estimating means that you just want a second number to your original number to get close, and that involves rounding. Now we have other lessons on rounding that you can look up on my site if you need a little bit of practice on that. But for example, our divisor of 13, that would round down to 10, and it's helpful for estimating to round numbers. Reasoning involves your number sense, and the more you do math problems, you get greater number sense, and your experience with math is kind of like a toolbox. And for example, for myself, a toolbox at home, I don't always use a hammer or a screwdriver. You use different tools for different jobs, and it's kind of like that for math. Here's an example of reasoning and number sense. I promise you it will just take about 15 seconds, okay? Jen walks by a classroom full of students at her school. About how many students were in the class? You see the answers there, 2, 20, 200, 2,000. And at first it's like, well, I have no idea what that would be. But remember your tools, which would be your experience at school, right? Rounding and estimating skills, and also just common sense. Well, we know that if the class was full, it's not going to be 2, right? 200 is too many for a normal class, and 2 million wouldn't be common sense, right? So we could use your experience, your reasoning and number sense to say it's about 20. Multiplying, you need to be able to do two-digit multiplication, like 13 times 3 is 39, to solve these kind of problems. Okay, directions just say solve. Our first step is to divide. We're going to start with the second digit because we have two-digit divisors. And ask yourself, how many times can 13 go into 45 without going over? Now, remember, we can't use just regular basic multiplication facts. That will not work for this lesson, which is why we're going to use other strategies, okay? So we'll put our divisor over there. And let's think about our estimating, reasoning, and number sense. Again, think of them as tools to solve. Let's try expanded form. That's one tool, right? Expanded form means that 13 is really 110 and 3 ones. And we have to figure out how many times does 13 fit into 45. And we can't just use basic multiplication facts. But we can take that 10 and reason that we can multiply 10 by 4 and get 40, which is close, right? But can we use that, or do we need to consider that 3 as well? If we multiply the 3 by 4, that equals 12. Then we want to add 40 plus 12, and we see that we get 52, which is too much, right? So what we learned is that 4 is too much, but it was helpful because of reasoning and common sense, we realized we can use 3. So we put that at the top in the thousands place value. Next, we multiply. 13 times 3 is 39. We put that underneath the 45 and subtract. That gives us 6, and with the comma it would be 6,000, but we'll just refer to it as 6 for communication purposes, okay? We're going to bring down the 3, and now we have 63. Okay, remember we talked about the commas. Just for a second before we go back. it's important that you put the comma in the right place. Where we have the 3 is in the thousands place value. And what that means is that your answer is going to have a total of 4 digits. Your thousands, hundreds, tens, and ones place values will give us a total of a 4-digit answer. Now that's before any kind of a remainder. Okay, so keep in mind, just don't put your number anywhere. You do have to make sure that you put it in the appropriate place value. Okay, back to our divide step. How many times can 13 go into 63 without going over? Again, using our estimating, reasoning, and number sense tools, how many times will 13 fit into 63? Well, I'm going to use a different tool this time. I'm just going to use repeated addition, okay? For example, 13 plus 13 is 26, plus 13 more is 39, plus 13 would be 52. 52 plus 13 is 65. 65 is too much, which means that we used one group of 13 too many, but this was useful because we did find that we could use 4 groups of 13. The 4 goes on top, and now we're ready to multiply. 13 times 4 is equal to 52. The 52 goes underneath. We subtract and get 11. As long as that's not over 13, that's great. And now we're ready to bring down the 0. We bring that down, and now we have 110. We'll call that 110 just for communication purposes. All right, we're ready to divide again. How many times does 13 go into 110 without going over? Using our estimating, reasoning, and number sense tools, let's use what we learned before. With the 4, we said that 4 times 13 is 52. And this time, we don't have to go to 52, but we have to go to 110. Well, I know that 52, if you double it, is going to be 104, which puts us right where we need to be. So, what did we do? We doubled the 52, which means that we need to also double the 4. In other words, times it by 2. 4 times 2 is 8, and 8 is what we want to use. So we're going to put the 8 at the top, and we're going to multiply 8 times 13, but we already know it's going to be 104. And now we put the 104 on the bottom, and we subtract. When you subtract, we get 6. Bring down the 8, almost there, and now we have 68. We're starting with the divide step again. How many times does 13 go into 68 without going over? Again, using our estimating and reasoning and number sense. This time, we'll go back to our repeated addition. We did that before, and that'll be useful for now. We know that before 65 was too much, but this time it's perfect. So we're going to use 5 groups of 13. The 5 goes on top. We multiply 13 times 5 is 65. The 65 goes on the bottom. We subtract, get 3, and that 3 will go up at the top and become our remainder. If we can get that up there, there we go. So our final answer is going to be 3,485 with the remainder of 3. If you made it this far, terrific. Thank you so much for watching. I hope this was helpful for the strategies and the idea of the toolbox, and we hope to see you on the next one.